We have Mike Klis of 9
Oh,
News,
okay.
our
Okay.
Broncos insider, with us here live. Mike, thanks for dropping by here on a Thursday, man.
Hey, what's going on, guys? I'm going to guess. I heard you ask the question to Stoke. I'm going to. I didn't read it. I'm guessing Von Miller.
Well, I mean, Mike, I'm supposed to guess first, and then you come in and you react to my guess, okay?
Goodness.
They brought me in. You hesitated. So
I love it. Hey, you're exactly right, Mike. That's the way to jump in front of the line there, buddy. I agree with Mike. I said this thing about 2 years ago. They should have considered doing this, and so I'm also going to go with Von Miller.
The selection that Bleacher Report made was Phillip Lindsay.
Oh.
And what they said,
yeah.
and here's their explanation. They said, quote,
Not bad.
They said the Denver Broncos are in a situation similar to Dallas's in that they have a productive young player whose job could soon be usurped by an offensive addition or an offseason addition. Broncos running back Phillip Lindsay's coming off back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons. However, Denver just signed free agent back Melvin Gordon to a 2-year, $16 million deal. Gordon is a capable runner and receiver out of the backfield, and with him on the roster, Lindsay is looking at a diminished role. There are running back needy teams around the league that would love to have a 1,000-yard runner on the roster and who would probably provide a pretty penny for Lindsay in a trade. If Gordon is going to be Denver's new workhorse running back, the young incumbent should be on the move, end quote. Mike, what are your thoughts there?
I like the first half explanation. When they first got Gordon, I can only imagine Lindsay's first reaction was, "Trade me, then. Trade me. If you don't like me, trade me to someone who will appreciate me." He's calmed down a little bit since then, but the pay a pretty penny. That's, I hate to say it again, but quite a few teams. There are so many good running backs out there that and Lindsay's good. He's real good. But I think the way the running back goes position, everyone looks to get one in the draft. And I think there's always a sleeper running back that emerges. Vaughn, an edge rusher, there's not too many of them out there like Von Miller. You could get some substantial trade in return for Vaughn. I don't think you would get a whole lot in return for Phillip Lindsay.
Well,
maybe what, a third, fourth round pick? That would be,
yeah.
And maybe that's enough. I don't know, but with Von Miller, even with this contract, I would think you got a chance of getting a first round pick.
Yeah, look, I'm with you, Mike. You're not going to get the return for Phillip Lindsay. You're not getting a second-round pick for him. You're probably not going to get a third-round pick for him.
Probably not.
So, is it a fourth, fifth-round pick? It's not even worth it. You need two backs.
That's right.
Melvin Gordon's played 16 games one season. I think that is it, full 16-game season. So, Phillip Lindsay, you got him for cheap this year. Why are you going to deal him for a fourth, fifth, sixth-round pick? Doesn't make any sense at all. I'm with you. It should be, you should look elsewhere. We need two running backs. Phillip Lindsay's a darn good running back. What happens if Melvin Gordon can't play 5 or 6 games? I mean, we're gonna turn to Royce Freeman? Well, no, they don't feel confident in Royce Freeman. So at least you got Phillip Lindsay there. When Melvin Gordon needs a break, you got Phillip Lindsay. So you don't trade an asset that's been very valuable to you for a late-round draft pick. It makes no sense. I disagree with that too, Mike.
Something else, it kind of dawned on me when you were talking. The Broncos doubled up and tripled up at so many offensive skill positions. And with this virus, if a guy gets the virus, and players are going to get the virus, right? I mean, they're going to open on time. The owners kind of substantiated what we already knew, that the Broncos camp's going to open on July 28th. But you anticipate, once they reopen, that these guys are, here and there's going to be news that this guy has the virus. And they're going to be shut down for up to 2 weeks. It's nice that they have two running backs in Gordon and Lindsay. It's nice that they have, 3 receivers now with Judy, Sutton, and KJ Hamler. They got 2 receiving tight ends that are similar in skill set, in Albert O and Noah Fant. So they're I don't think they did that by design with the virus in mind, but it might work out for the Broncos, the depth they have at the offensive skill positions.
Man, I got to tell you, I did not think about that at all, but that is a great point that you just made, Mike. And Mike Klis at 9 News dropping by here live on Stokley and Zach. It's kind of like they have a Noah's Ark offense. They got 2 of everything. So, I think that's a great point, and one that, we've never really had to consider pre-pandemic, but guys are going to get sick. Like, this is going to happen. And that's, brings up one of the, really big overarching conversations to this season, Mike, is we just have no idea how this is going to go. What happens to the Saints if, Drew Brees can't play for a couple weeks and they're in playoff contention? What happens if Drew Locke gets the virus? Is Jeff Driscoll going to play 3 straight weeks for the Broncos? Man, it's just there's a lot left unsaid, and we've never navigated these waters before.
No, and maybe that the quarterback position is the one area where you would question if on the Noah's Ark there. Is Jeff Driscoll the guy you want as the backup to go in for 2 or 3 games? If a more serious injury would happen to Drew Locke, and Cam Newton is still available, I think maybe the Broncos might make a play there. But until that would happen, someone like Cam Newton wouldn't be where the Broncos would go. So, yeah, this virus definitely could change things. And the one thing, unlike baseball, which has already got the contracted season, and they could lose a couple star players for a couple weeks, the NFL, I think, is pretty confident and optimistic it's going forward with a 16-game schedule. I have heard, and it's been out there a little bit about only having 2 preseason games, backing that up to late August. So maybe you can have 25% capacity of fans in the stands. It seems to me like the NFL wants to start with fans, even if it's a limited number. But then you'd have the 1-and-1. 1 home game, 1 road game. You kind of have to redo the preseason to accommodate that. But it's all about having that full season come September.
Mike, you mentioned the preseason. You expecting to see a normal training camp? I mean, you expecting to be out there, a media being out there also, and a full normal 4-game preseason? Will it be shortened? What are you expecting to see there?
I think a lot of that still has to be determined right now. I've heard the media might be watching from the berm and then actually not interviewing players as they come off the field, moving on and doing Zoom calls. And I've also heard the media won't be out there at training camp.
Really?
And we'll just be, they'll supply some kind of video. The team will supply some kind of video to everyone, and we'll be doing Zoom calls with Vic Fangio after every practice and whoever a couple players would be after every practice. From what I understand, there's it still could change, and hopefully it does change. I'm a little concerned about some of the media restrictions that they're talking about right now. They're the way it's the downside is they're talking about we may not have any face-to-face contact with the players or coaches at all this year.
Whoa.
Which would make things difficult, I would think.
Yeah, especially for someone like you who relies on that sort of access. And you've already been told that you're not going to be allowed in the locker room this year. Isn't that right?
Yeah, I was told not to plan on it.
Okay, yeah.
I was told not to plan on being in the locker room. And even those post-game, and again, maybe it changes. This spike of the virus, everybody's monitoring, and everybody's trying to follow what's going to happen with the virus here in the next couple of weeks. But like that press conference in that media room at the stadium, we won't be doing press conferences in there either. it'll be right now they're talking about the Zoom from the press box, which you do it from the press box, you do it from home. What's the difference?
Right, man.
We'll see. There's
I understand. I understand not wanting to have you in the locker room, right? That's an intimate environment, and I get that and respect that. But I do believe that you should. I think we should still be out there. I think there's enough space for us to be out there at training camp. And again, I'm just speaking for myself here. I think there's plenty enough space. Yeah. I understand I don't want to get too close to players, just like when we get too close to 2 o'clock. I got to say KKFN, HD1 Longmont, Denver. But there, I think there's ways to navigate it safely. That press conference room is huge in the team room that can be accessed. Yeah. And I think we can be creative with ways to be responsible, but still get to know these players in person, because it's just not the same over these Zoom calls.
Take down 4 of the 5 tents and just keep the fan tent out there, right?
Sounds good.
Yeah, that's what they need to do. But yeah, it's. I think eventually the fans will be all right. I think it'll be a limited capacity all year. Maybe it gets up to 50% capacity by the end of the year. They'll have to wear masks. They'll have to have their temperature taken coming into the stadium. But yeah, it would be difficult to not have any person-to-person contact. I understand it. I guess I understand it. And, tell us the rules, and we'll adjust to the rules.
Sure.
But it's going to be. I don't know. I just hope I can still get a scoop or two doing it this way.
You'll be fine, Mike. You'll figure it out. You'll figure it out, buddy. You always do.
I don't know how. I just don't know how.
You'll do it. Trust me. You'll figure it out. Any news here on Kareem Jackson? You heard anything about him since in the last week or so?
No, I haven't. I have not heard. I have not followed up. But that's a good idea. I need to follow up on him. I think he's. I think this would be finishing up week 2, so he should be okay here starting next week. I'll have to make sure I follow up on that.
Mike Klis joining us here. I got to ask you about Drew Locke. Earlier in the show, I proposed what I believe is a worst-case scenario for the Denver Broncos at the quarterback position, and that is for some reason this year, Drew Locke gets hurt, and we have an incomplete picture of him again going into another offseason. And right now we only have 5 games to work with. Let's just say that, week 6, Drew Locke, something, God forbid, knock on wood, something happens to him, and he has to miss the rest of the season. And we go into 2021 still with an unclear, undefined picture of who he is. You would have to, in my opinion, start entertaining another option, not like you're moving on from Drew, but maybe an option for competition and just the uncertainty at the position moving forward. What do you make of that scenario?
Yeah, that's a uncomfortable hypothetical to address. I always hate.
But it's very real. But Mike, it's very real.
And it is. I'll tell you another reason why it's real. Drew Locke last year, when he did play, I saw 3 or 4 times where he ran and he took some shots, outside of the pocket, where he didn't get down, he didn't slide, and to me, that's something that has to be addressed with him in his development during the preseason, during training camp. I think it was maybe the last game of the year where he really took a shot outside the pocket. He got up, he's strong, but he did get hurt trying to scramble away from trouble in the preseason, and he missed half the year. That worst case scenario is a substantial injury. And then as far as what it does for the competition, I guess it would depend on how he played when he did play. If he's knocked out for 7 games, how did he play in the 9?
Right.
If it was uneven, yes, you've got to look at a substantial or a significant competition going there. Maybe you go back to the veteran route, but if Drew Locke goes down and the season goes south, which if Drew Locke goes down, I think this season would go south. I think a lot of people would be in trouble. I think how it works in the NFL. I mean, they could blow the thing up and start all over. Who knows what they would do in 2021? Including Brittany's there. They got the lawsuit in September to see if they can get that clear that hurdle. Maybe there's shakeups everywhere. So this is a big year for everyone with the Broncos from the very top to the very bottom.
Mike, what did you make of the enshrinement, the Hall of Fame enshrinement this year coming up this summer? Canceled. They're going to push it back to next year. They're going to have both classes next year, all in one. Yeah. What did you make of that news?
Well, it's a little next year that class is going to be enormous with Peyton Manning, Charles Woodson, Calvin Johnson, and maybe John Lynch. So in some ways, a guy like Steve Atwater has to share the spotlight. But I talked to Steve, and he was glad it got delayed. He was saying because of the virus, his dad wasn't going to go to the ceremony.
Oh wow!
Just because his dad's in good health, but there's a legitimate fear of the virus. When you travel and you're in a very public event like that Hall of Fame is. So it's it's something that's disappointing that all this stuff has to get canceled or postponed, but it's the right decision. So, and there's nothing you can do about it. I mean, the virus is out there, and the numbers are not good still. That it was the right decision to move it back to next year.
Mike and Mike Klis of 9 News joining us here live on Stokley and Zach. We appreciate it. On the way out here, Bradley Chubb. I saw him in the video that he put out. I'm sure you saw it. He looks great. And when we size up this defense, considering he's backfiring on all cylinders, Vaughn in a bounce back season, Jarrell Casey now in the mix, Shelby Harris coming back, Mike Purcell being a factor from day one, A.J. Johnson being a factor from day one, Kareem Jackson coming back, Justin Simmons here once again. The expectations for that side of the ball, I mean, is it too lofty considering that they have the number one cap mark in the league for that side of the ball, the most expensive defense in the NFL? Vic Fangio is a defensive-minded coach. With everything taken into consideration, is it too much to say, just come out with it, this should be one of the best 3 or 4 defenses in football, period?
Yes, that's true. I also think that's what we were saying at this time last year, and it took a while. Vaughn and Chubb in the first 4 games, I think the first 3 games didn't have a sack. I mean, we were projecting 30 sacks between Chubb and Miller at this time last year.
Right.
And it didn't work out that way. You got to go out and do it. I think this defense, to me, has 2 big question marks, and you just mentioned them. It's Bradley Chubb on one edge, and it's Von Miller on the other edge. And the question marks are for different reasons. Chubb because of the ACL. And it's the second time he tore that ACL. The first time was in high school.
That's right.
And he bounced back, and he was great. But, I'm no doctor or scientist, and he does look great. And no one's worked harder, and no one's going to work harder than Bradley Chubb at getting himself healthy. But will he be Bradley Chubb again, this year? Or will it take him half a year to get right? Or will it be 2021? And by the way, I think this team is more set up for 2021 and 2022 than it is for 2020. Just, when you look at so much talent being as young as it is. And then with Von Miller, the question is, he's 31 years old coming off a down year. If he was 26 coming off a down year, it'd be no big deal. But when you have a down year at 30, people naturally question, is Vaughn on his, is he past his prime now? He wouldn't be the first one to have his prime come at 30, 31 years old. That's getting up there for most, if not all but a small percentage of NFL players. And so he's 31 coming off a down year. Can he bounce back and have 12 to 15 sacks again? Those are the two biggest question marks because those are the strengths still of this team on paper. But they got to go out and do it.
Got to go out and do it. Yeah, we are the expectations are high, but we've also seen a lot of bad football here the last couple of years. So I think we should all be in prove-it mode, coupled with reasonable expectations, considering the personnel and the price tags and the coaching staff. So,
if everything breaks right, I think they can get that, seventh playoff seed and be 9-7. They could be really exciting on offense at some point in the year, halfway through the year. I give them halfway because, new offensive coordinator and such youth that it might take them a few weeks. But when it clicks, it could be very exciting. But there's when you look at the Broncos, there's a lot of things that could go wrong too. So we'll see how it plays out. I do think with Fangio, and that's where I ultimately come down to on this team. I think Fangio's the type that's going to get this team tough. Not only tough physically, but tough-minded the way they were last year. And they'll be better in the second half and play better in the second half than they do in the first.